Hi, I'm Nick Ross for iTWire. I'm in Tokyo at HP's Partner and Customer Conference. Hello, who are you and what's your role?
Hi Nick, I'm Vinay. I'm Vinay Awasthi. I work for HP. I run the Greater Asia uh, office for HP.
And what does that role entail?
So it involves being the managing director for this region. The region comprises of Japan, Australia, New Zealand, all of ASEAN. So pretty large region. And it basically means me and my team, we are responsible for serving our customers and our partners to maximize the business outcomes for our company.
And can you give us an overview of the theme of future, it's future ready, isn't it, at the conference in the last couple of years?
Well, as you know, right, last 3 years have been pretty difficult years for all of us. And it has meant that we have not been able to interact with our customers or with our partners for at least face to face and as a group. And that means sometimes larger subjects about what is future, how it is unfolding, it gets diluted. We don't end up having that discussion. So this conference is about that. We had close to about 500 of our premium partners and customers join us here. And we had a discussion about how we see the future evolving, what are the trends, and then how can we actually prepare plans that can make us better together. So that's why future ready, better together.
Yeah. And how, I know you can't go into specifics because you're in a quiet period, but how has HP's business looked in past few years compared to now, and how you expect it to go in the near future?
I will comment on the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If you look at the last few years, there were the years when the world had to all of a sudden prepare for the hybrid office, right? Which meant a lot of people who did not have enough computing or printing at home. They were in a rush setting up their home offices because they could not go to physical offices that they were used to, right? And this involved a tremendous amount of demand for our industry, and it was a burst of installations that happened. There was massive amount of resilience activity, many roles for which people were sharing computers now could only be done by those folks individually from home. So that also meant corporates and enterprises and small and medium businesses set up offices for their employees. So that install base got built over the last few years, and that was what put so much strain on supply chain as well for everybody, for multiple different types of reasons, right? But now what we are seeing is that there is a little bit of an adjustment because obviously that kind of demand not be there every year, but we expect that this phase is going to get over sometime soon, and we will see a refresh of that install base, because one of the things that we have learned is hybrid work is here to stay, and very much there are physical offices, companies are maintaining them, people are coming back, but people are also maintaining their home offices that they set up, right? So we actually very happy to see that trend, because we really believe that now people can work from anywhere and be productive anywhere, anytime, depends on the role, depends on the company, industry, people, and that gives us great opportunity to position our products. We see a tremendous expansion in the use cases of our products because of this. So very happy about the prospects of the future.
So we've heard a huge amount in recent days, and from many talks and from your colleagues, about HP's embedded sustainability. How has that extended into manufacturing and the supply chain?
Well, sustainability for us has been at the forefront of thought for many years. This is not something new, but we are progressing on doubling down, tripling down in multiple different aspects of it, right? So let's start with simple things like our product, right? We started off by putting recycled plastic into our products. Then initially it was a few products. Now across our PC computing line, for example, every product has recycled plastic, recycled metal. So we are continuing to increase that by designing that into our products. We are looking at the packaging and solving that by saying, can we have more sustainable material in our packaging? How do we actually make our products more energy efficient, so that they are less draw on energy for whatever people are going to use for. So there are all those aspects. Then we are also looking at our logistical network. We are looking at our supply chains. In terms of logistics, we are looking at, okay, how can we optimize the number of laptops that go on a pallet? Which means if you can actually on the same pallet ship more laptops, then you are using less energy to transport them. Then if I come to manufacturing, we are looking at, we have multiple factories across the world. We are looking at how do we make our factories more sustainable, which means we are looking at closed loop manufacturing, zero waste of water, recycling that. We are looking at how do we draw from the green grid. And also we are available, of course, in different parts of the world, different availability of sustainable energy. We are also looking at various certifications that actually push our manufacturing setups for being more energy efficient. So different approaches, but we are looking at end to end. Beyond this, we are also looking at how do we not just look at energy aspect of sustainability, but we also look at the community aspect of sustainability. So there are multiple communities that we support who we want to bring in into the modern ecosystem by closing the digital equity gap, for example, right? So in Indonesia, we do a lot of work called Semangat Guru program, where we train the teachers and get them to use more technology, and in that sense, we draw better outcomes for the students, that otherwise will be less represented in the digital economy, right? So we look at it comprehensively. We have a very complex framework of sustainability, and we publish our sustainability report. We are very proud of that. We have been very proud of the disclosure that we make. It's a very complex one. I can hand one over to you if you want to read it. But so yeah, sustainability is very important to us, and we look at it across the board, from the product to manufacturing to logistics, and what else we can do. We do a lot of work on deforestation. So for example, our commitment to sustainability continues to increase.
Okay. And what trends are you seeing across Asia in what you're looking over?
Well, Asia is a very complex geography, but it's a geography that is fascinating to me. One trend that we see as a long term, right? It's the next 7 to 10 years. Asia is going to drive more than 50% of the consumption growth for this world, which is in trillions of dollars of GDP. And the reason for this is, the way I see is, our governments are investing a lot in closing the gap on digitization. Even here in Japan, for example, we see the government doing a lot of planning and investment in modernizing education, in modernizing agriculture. They have a smart agriculture program where they want the farmers to be participating in modern agriculture by using technology. We see the Australian government having plans for digital business plans, $1 billion or so of investment to modernize that. We see demographics in such a way. I mean, we are talking about emerging and developed markets both. In the emerging markets, we see a lot of investments on education. We see a lot of startups happening we see a lot of BPOs getting set up in emerging countries. This is the kind of growth that can only happen if we have the adequate amount of investment in technology. And since we are all about helping people get enabled based on digital technology, whether it is in government, whether it is in education, or whether it is in day-to-day lives, we have a lot of opportunity. So I'm actually very excited about this region. Obviously, one size does not fit all, so we have to have plans, different ones for different countries. But I truly believe that the 10-year growth that is being projected, that more than 50% of consumption, I actually think it might happen faster. And I also think one of the reasons for that is this now, the advent of AI, right? It has been there with us, AI, but I think the next phase of it is generative AI. And I see it will have probably a lot of impact on what people do with their computing products.
Being from Australia, we should have a little chat about that. How's the channel business tracking in Australia?
Look, most of HP's business is channel business. That's the reason we had a channel partner event here. We are proud to be a very channel focused company. We have always been that, and it is the same case in Australia as well. We actually see a lot of engagement from our channel partners. They know that we are very proud to be channel focused and channel centric. As we have come out of the pandemic, now we are beginning to see, during the pandemic, what had happened because of the shortages, there was a lot of tactical work. But now that we are out of it, we are in more balanced environment for supply and demand. Now we are planning longer with them. And as you plan longer with them, you uncover a lot of things about what we can do better together, right? There are opportunities that they see, and we see in our portfolio stuff that can actually help solve for that. HP of today is very different than what HP 3 or 4 years ago was. We have acquired Poly, which gives us a great opportunity to go after communications, for example. We have HyperX that gives us great opportunity to enhance our value proposition for gaming. We have acquired a company called Teradici, which is more about remote computing, higher end computing. So HP Anywhere is the brand that we use for that. So we have a lot richer offering when it comes to the hybrid workspace. And since hybrid workspace, I think hybrid work culture is here to stay. With our partners now, we are really planning how will it play out over the next 6, 9, 12 months. And we see tremendous amount of engagement from their side, because they are also very excited when they hear about these trends. They are also very excited when they see new things in our portfolio, new approaches to the markets. And we are working that with each other right now. So that's the phase we are in.
And how does the Australian market compare with the rest of Asia?
I will not comment on that quantitatively because I'm in a quiet period and I can't do that. But I can give you qualitatively.
Very yes.
Okay.
That's all we need.
Look, qualitatively, I would say Australia is a very exciting market for a variety of reasons. I did mention the government space. I think there is a lot of work that the government intends to do to push education, to push digital governance, right? To push the aspect of security. We have enhanced our security offering on endpoint devices quite a lot. So we see it resonating across public sector, we see it resonating across enterprise, we see it resonating across small and medium businesses. And then on retail, the Aussie consumer is a very tech savvy consumer. Yeah. They are very demanding, but they are also very rewarding to engage with if you have the right products for them. So we see great opportunity in especially the new technology that we bring. Australia is always at the priority for us to introduce fast. We see a lot of opportunities in premium. We see a lot of opportunities gaming. With the accessory lineup, we see a lot more opportunities now with the overall offering of HP branded HyperX as well as Poly. So I'm very excited about the Aussie opportunity, to be frank with you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add while we've got the iTWire audience on the hill?
Well, I'm very curious to see you're using a new gadget, which is from HyperX. So
yes. Before we give it a go,
yeah, I am very curious to see what you would think about this, and
well, I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Vinay.
Thank you, Nick. Pleasure to be here.